You know, we still have remnants of our winter storm. Signs that it got bad here. This is just a remnant. I'm done with this. Let's get spring going. So we just came out of a major freeze which leveled our garden basically, except for a few brassicas. And so what we're doing now is we're transitioning from our winter garden to our spring garden. Our last average frost date here in Zone 9A on the Texas coast is March the 1st. That's 10 days or so from now. And, you know, just 2 days ago it was 14 degrees, not minus. It was 14 degrees. So we had a major freeze, and it was a sustained freeze, historic event. So, yeah, that's weird, right? You got this historic event, and then 10 days later it's supposed to be your last frost date. It looks like we're not having any more major cold fronts coming our way. So it's time to prep our garden and start looking to spring. So if you're a new gardener and you're putting in a new bed, that's great. Now's the time to do it. Now's the time to start thinking about spring. So let's get out there and get to work. First thing I had to do was recover from the freeze. And so I was busy taking out all my plants that were inside. And we've got some pepper plants here. We got some herbs that we saved. And all kinds of goodness that we saved in the house. Right here is one of my fig trees. And we saved this fig tree because it's my favorite. Here's one of the citrus trees that we put in the house by the fireplace. Yeah, this is a good one. So we got to save all this stuff, but we couldn't save everything. And, well, that's the way it goes. We had to uncover our stone fruit. This is a peach plant. I put this in a couple weeks ago, and wow, what unfortunate timing, huh? We had to uncover all these, and hopefully they'll pull through. Poor little fella. Tried to hide from the cold underneath a pot. It doesn't look like he made it. That is a brown anole. This is a invasive species in our area. They compete with the native green anoles. He's still soft, but he's dead as a door now. Kind of sad, huh? Garden nutrition right there. Well, they're still dormant, and they don't show any signs of budding, breaking bud. So, well, we'll see if they made it or not. These stone fruits are said to be pretty hardy. It's still limber. Maybe a little too limber. I guess we'll find out, huh? We will find out. In my last garden tour, I told you that the garden would not look the same on the next garden tour, and we're in the process of making that happen. We've cleared out a lot of crops here, a lot of stuff that died back in the freeze. We've already cleared out, and we're going to continue to clear things out, weed trim, clean things up a bit, and I'm going to flame weed today. And those carrots don't look like they're doing so hot down there. We might just go ahead and pull those out too, and just get everything we can ready for spring, because we've got a lot of good plans coming up, and well, it's just kind of nasty and ratty back here. A lot of work to do today. Well, the side beds are cleared. The citrus that was indoors has been brought out. I'm in the process of straightening this tree. This tree had grown curved, and it was under a bunch of green beans, and they curved this guy around. He was looking for sunlight, so I'm straightening him up, and it's working quite well. So yeah, he's out here. This is my Ronde Bordeaux fig tree. This one survived because it was in the house by the fireplace. All the other figs, well, I don't know, we'll find out. Figs are pretty hardy. Sometimes they'll surprise you, so we'll see. And then my other side bed here, we pulled out all we had some bok choy here, we had some yodfa here, and we had some dill over there. Pulled all that out. It got zapped pretty good, and so that's ready to receive plants, and we need to amend that soil. But yeah, everything else looking like we gotta get these weeds flame weeded. What I'm gonna do is come in here and to these garden beds, and I'm gonna loosen the soil. I'm not gonna turn it. You see, the soil has what they call a seed bank. And there are seeds down in there that if you till, you're just going to bring up new seeds. I want each year fewer and fewer seeds up on the surface. And by not tilling the soil, but just loosening it a bit, I'm limiting the amount of dormant seeds that are down there that I'm bringing up in my soil. But I do sometimes like to come in and fork it and loosen it, and I'll show you how to do that. I go all the way down to the length of this fork, which is about 12 inches, so about a foot. I'm going all the way down. I can feel I'm hitting my clay layer down there, and I'm just loosening the soil. I'm not turning it over. I'm not turning up things that are down there. I'm just loosening the soil. And this is a pretty good practice if you have dense soil down below and you want to try to get this good garden mix to amend your bed, work its way down deeper. It gives a raised bed a lot of depth. And yeah, we're bringing up a little bit of seed from that dormant seed bank down there. But you notice we're not bringing up a lot of it. Now, you don't have to do this. If you've got a lot of compost, you can just sheet compost right on top. And that, over time, will work its way down. Okay, you can see behind me how that soil is now fluffy looking. It's got air pockets in it, channels down deep into it, and it's raised up a little bit. And yeah, it's going to work its way back down as it gets watered and rained on. But now when we come back and put compost on there, some of that compost will fall down in those cracks in the soil. And yeah, just work the bed, just make the bed better. You're going to get you a digging fork. You know, some of these forks they sell at the hardware store just aren't cut out for that kind of heavy work. So you want something that has specifically for digging, usually it's going to have a full steel welded piece. It's not going to be some screw. It's not going to be fork stuck into a piece of wood with a ferrule around it. It's going to be heavy duty, and so a digging fork is a good idea. All right, well, while we're here, I'm going to take some soil samples. While we're working in the garden today, I'm going to take some soil samples and send them in and get tested. I've never had my garden soil tested, but I've read Steve Solomon's book, The Intelligent Gardener, and he talks a lot about mineralization in your soil. So I need to find out what's in my soil and where I need to improve my soil, if indeed I need to improve. Your particular lab will give you instructions for how to take a soil sample, and they'll give you a form to send in with your soil sample so that you know what you got. I'm going to take a sample from each of my beds, and for this, Logan Labs is who I'm using. That's who Steve Solomon recommends. Logan Labs will give you a full spectrum test, and you can find out more than some like your local extension office. They'll test your soil as well. You can do that, but I need to find out about mineralization, so I'm going to have a full spectrum test done on each of my 3 main growing beds here. So what I'm going to do is take a sample from 6 inches deep, 2 cups, and I'm going to take samples throughout each bed and combine them. And I'm going to put them in a plastic bag, and we're going to send them off to get tested. So follow the instructions from your particular lab or extension office. The soil sample should be taken from about 6 inches deep, and you should get a little bit from different parts of your garden. So I'm going to go around and dig down about 6 inches deep, just like that, and we're going to get 2 cups and put it in this bag. The instructions say that you should get down 6 inches or so, or to your tillage depth if you're doing a till garden. So I'm just going down here into the kind of the heart meat of my my garden there, and there's our first soil sample ready to go to the lab. That's 2 cups. That's a good amount of soil right there, and that's a representative of this entire bed. Bed number 3, we're going to go down 6 inches or so. That's some nice black gumbo clay down in there, but there's some soil too. All right, so now we're going to move down and take a sample and fill this cup up from the middle of the bed. Move, Phoebe, move. Right about here looks good. 6 inches deep. All right. Again, they say you should try to get the soil down deep where your roots are going to spend most of their time. All right, so Sam and I are going to go ahead and harvest all our carrots so we can get this bed cleared out. We're going to pull all the carrots up, throw them in a bowl, take the greens off, and throw them in the compost pile. All right, so let's get harvesting.
Ah, look at that.
That's a cool little carrot. And part of the problem here is Phoebe likes carrots, so we need to keep her from eating our carrots. Now these are stumpy little fellas because most of the varieties I bought this year are short carrots, Parisians, ox hearts, and these yellow carrots here. But they still are good. Super delicious. We got one down in there. If you leave the greens on, they get wilty and soft because the root is trying to support the foliage, and it drains it of its resources and its goodness.
That's massive.
That's a big one there, huh?
Chonk. We got quite a lot. There's a couple big ones in here. I think this one's gonna hold the record for the biggest carrot we've plucked today.
I need to get these cabbages out of here too so we can work on this bed. Yeah, these cabbages. They made it. As I always do, anything that isn't going in the house goes in the compost pile. I can tell some of these leaves, these outer leaves on this cabbage have in fact been damaged by the frost. But the head itself should be fine in there. We're looking good. There we go. Nice, huh? This head of cabbage feels significantly lighter, and that's because it was a replacement. It was a replacement cabbage for one that my dog ate. But I was able to get it in time to head up, at least a little bit, so we've got a tiny little head of cabbage here. Into the compost bin. All right, so we were really able to fill up the compost bin with green from the garden. All this damaged foliage, the leftovers from our carrot harvest, all the greens that were freeze killed, they're all in here now. Need to add some dry leaves and carbon, some shredded paper in here and mix it up, and we'll get this compost pile burning again. Right next to it I have my finishing compost. This is the stuff we're going to spread on the garden. This is the good stuff. Alright, here is the compost that we made. And it doesn't look like that much, but it turns out it's going to be sufficient for what we need. But yeah, that's good compost right there. Nice and loamy. And we're gonna send this through the sifter. And hey, what'd you find? Get out of there. Move, move. Here's the thing about compost. If you have compost that's chunky like this, and you can't mix it into your soil because it's still not quite broken down, you can use it as a mulch and a top dressing. It's called sheet mulching, and it'll be just fine if it sits on the surface of the soil, because all the nutrients that the bacteria use to break down this chunkier stuff, it's the same nutrients your plants need. But if they're just using those nutrients on the horizon of the soil at the surface, then where your roots are down beneath, you're going to be just fine. So I'm just trying to get the larger chunks out of here and find debris that I don't want in the garden, like big sticks, paper that made it in. But I could use this directly on the garden bed. Now, one of the steps I like to take when transitioning from seasons, you know, from winter to spring, or from spring to summer, or summer to fall gardening, I like to go and weed my garden with a flame weeder. You don't have to do this, but when I broke up all that soil, even a lot of the seeds that I'm not trying to bring up still come up to the surface. And there's a lot of seeds on the surface from the weeds throughout the growing season. A flame weeder is just an easy way to tidy up your garden if you've got concrete blocks for borders. It makes it look good, it knocks back all the weeds that are on the surface, and it kills off a lot of the weed seeds that are, you know, within the top half inch, maybe even the top quarter inch of the soil. It doesn't really harm the soil life, which are usually below where the heat's going to kill them. And I like to do this at least twice a year. Final step for refreshing these beds is to spread that compost now on the bed. I'm gonna just spread it evenly across the whole thing, and we're gonna let it just sit there until we transplant our tomato seedlings and various pepper seedlings and all the things we're gonna put in there. So we're gonna put our compost on this bed. We're not gonna turn it in, we're gonna let it sit right on the top, and that'll get us ready. That's all we need. That is just one wagon full or a big wheelbarrow full of compost spread across the top of that soil, and that's all we need to refresh it for the spring growing season. I'm going to let that mellow there until we start planting our seedlings out here. So it's just going to sit for about 10 days, maybe a little more, and that's good soil, man. That's great. Feels good, huh? Get out and work in the sunshine. So you can see all the soil that was originally there. It's the grayer stuff because it's been flame weeded. It's not completely covered up, but I've gone and put what, if you average it out, would be about a quarter inch to a half inch of compost on top. And I'm just going to let that sit there. I'm going to let it sit there until I plant in it, and then I'll rake it down smooth, and we'll come back and have a nice garden bed. Wow, this is really encouraging. This is a big change. Now I'm going to compost this bed as well. That's my future tomato bed. It's a little bit longer bed, but I'm tired. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to wait for those two Brussels sprouts to give me a few more sprouts, and all that stuff back there will come out later. We're going to let that continue to grow, and that's kind of the, in my spring garden plan, there's a lot of stuff going in back there, but some of it is direct from seed, so I'm going to let that grow for the next 10 days or so, see what we get out of it. It was just 2 days ago that I was sitting in this very place talking to you about what I learned from our hard freeze and the grid collapse in Texas, and that video has been very well received, and a lot of you have commented on that. I thank you for your comments. I thank you for your prayers. I thank you for all your support. We're fine. Everything's well. We're still on a boil water notice, but other than that, everything's back to normal. It's 64 degrees in my garage right now, a far cry from what it was just about 36 hours ago. So thank you for joining me today on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please share it and subscribe to our channel. That would mean a lot to us. And happy gardening to you. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Well, you want me to throw it, huh? Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Drop it. Good dog. Nice catch. Drop it. Good girl.